What else was of interest to you on cutdown day?
The trade for a cornerback which was what we talked about with Myron, I believe, on Friday's Purple Daily. The fact that there has to be genuine concern is Xavier Rhodes is something wrong there. And so it wasn't just like a depth pickup, it was that, but it's also that Cardinals game was a little bit scary. And seeing Rhodes try and pivot and basically fell down. Uh, this is probably not completely unusual, but it is remarkable to me when you look at Diggs, Thielen, right? Two of the best in the league. And that drop off now from those two to the three guy, it's not just like, oh, you'll be fine. If either one of those guys gets hurt, unless BB has something I have not seen, and I'm not even trying to say he's a bad player, but he's okay. But the drop off there is huge. The Treadwell move had to hurt the pride as well for Rick to basically come back and say, but Laquon Treadwell, when you look up his stats, it's not just sort of a miss.
It's abysmal.
He did nothing.
Yep.
Troy Williamson in 3 years. So it's apples to apples. It's 3 years and 3 years. Troy, who could not hang on to a football to save his life, he couldn't catch, has much better stats.
Oh yeah,
than Laquon.
It's not really close.
So but yeah, the drop off to me of Diggs, Thielen to hey, who's your three? It's not small. It's a canyon.
The longest reception from Laquon Treadwell in 3 years of playing here is 25 yards. Williamson had the longest catch of his each 3 seasons was way longer than that, 46, 55, and 60 or something like that. I wrote more about the Laquon Treadwell thing at scorenorth.com and basically dug into all the different things that had to go wrong for him to end up as one of the biggest busts in team history. And it's really fascinating that you could have basically said it from the very first week of his career where he didn't get into the game. And Thielen and Diggs were great against Tennessee in 2016. And it just looked like, where is this guy going to fit in? And then throughout that year, he couldn't get the details right. Last year, he couldn't catch the football. I mean, it's just been one thing after another. And he does lack a little bit of self-awareness. He lacks a little bit of understanding and knowledge of the game. And all these things played together with him becoming a bust and them letting him go. One thing that I would look back a little bit in for hindsight is John DeFilippo and Kirk Cousins last year throwing to him, playing him as much as they did early in the season. I mean, they were treating him as if he was a fine, totally legit, normal number 3 wide receiver, and he was not. He was one of the worst players at his position in the entire NFL. Pro Football Focus grades had him 126th out of 130 or something like that. I mean, he was like at the very, very bottom of the NFL. And so John DeFilippo came here as an offensive coordinator and looked at the guy and said, oh, yeah, number 3 receiver, he's fine. And in big situations, Kirk Cousins said, oh, yeah, this is a guy I want to throw the ball to. Like, what?
Well,
I mean, how does this happen?
I think that the conversation that we had up on this stage on Friday is exactly right. I think the Vikings had to cut Treadwell to save Cousins from himself. I think if you were dealing with a quarterback who is like, all right, if that guy plays, he's a decoy basically, you might have said we can keep Laquon because he can play special teams. I don't think he was a bad apple.
No, not
a bad guy.
Not a bad guy at all.
I think he didn't get it, but I don't think that he brought that into the locker room in a negative way. But after what we saw last year, you could not, in good conscience, I don't think, put Laquon Treadwell on the same football field as Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins proved that if that was the read, he was going there. And I go back to week 2, Green Bay. Of course, in that game, Laquon caught the only touchdown pass that he caught in his career. But I go back to the ball he tipped, and that was just like I said to myself, you can't do this.
There's 3 situations where Cousins threw to him in big moments of big games that were totally senseless. Oh, Jonathan is showing me that as we discuss this right now, the Vikings have essentially traded one bust for the other. They're going to sign Josh Doctson from Washington. He was cut by them. How about that? Thank you, Jonathan.
That's the same draft,
news.
Right?
It's the same draft, but it's one pick before, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Doctson was not good in Washington, but was probably better than Treadwell was in Minnesota, if that makes sense. That doesn't surprise me. They needed to get another receiver. they couldn't go into the season
No.
with only 4 receivers. So Josh
No, but
Doctson
this is
is now
underwhelming.
on the team. Yeah, well, if anybody you're going to get now is underwhelming,
Well,
of course.
no, but your guy.
Would you be excited about Aldrick Robinson?
Yes,
though?
because Kirk and him have something.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
no, I'm
But
trying
he
to.
caught like 17 balls. I mean, it wasn't like he was great.
I know, but I don't need great. I need reliable
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So anyway, to finish the point, so the Vikings now have Josh Doctson, and we'll see how that goes. But to finish the point, it kind of blows my mind that in big situations last year, several times Laquon Treadwell was targeted, and this was a guy who shouldn't have even been there. We knew by last year in training camp that it was over for him, that he was not ever going to emerge and be a star, and they just kept giving him chance after chance after chance, and all they needed last year was a half of win. Not even a full win, a half win, and they're in the playoffs. Yeah. I think you could point to those plays with Treadwell. The interception in Green Bay, that's a couple of points. I think they made a field goal after that. Green Bay did. And then you have the play in New Orleans on 4th down where he throws it to Treadwell. It's a high throw, but it goes off his hands. There's a play in New England where they throw it to him on a 4th down and he gets like 6 yards.
Yeah.
I mean,
against the Patriots, by the way.
Again,
yeah,
right?
Why? Why are you doing that?
And so how was he even on the team last year at this point?
Oh, I can tell you. He's a first-round pick of Rick Spielman.
I know.
Rick doesn't like to be embarrassed.
That's what I'm saying, is them not eating their pride last year when they already knew it was over for him after a 20-catch season in 2017. That's when they should have moved away from Laquon Treadwell.
There are times that this front office, Matthew Coller, gets very, very cute, and they shouldn't. And there's times that it's obvious that things are just done, and they say, but he was a first-round pick.